I want to welcome everyone here to GovSchool. Today, what we're going to talk about is NAICS codes explained. A lot of times, there's a lot of acronyms associated with government contracting, and I'm going to take the mystery out of it just a little bit. 1 minute here. We are live on YouTube. I'd like to make sure everybody's aware of that. It takes me just a second or two to get all the information available to you. I've got a keynote presentation that we're going to work with. So today, what we're going to, beyond just the NAICS code conversation, we're going to talk about, how to find your business in that category. And so this is a 6-digit coding system that really dictates how we receive contract opportunities from the federal government, specifically also attached to the set-aside system. And that's an important distinction when we're discussing uh, uh, the NAICS codes and how you work with the federal government agencies. Let everybody get into the room here, and we'll probably edit this just a little bit on YouTube afterwards. But I want to make sure we got everybody in the room that wants to be here today as we do the live presentation. So, what are NAICS codes? Welcome again to GovSchool. Today, what we're talking about is NAICS codes. My name is Mark. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections, and I like to teach these classes to help you understand really truly how the sector works. And this is an introductory level series that we're talking about today. NAICS codes is one of the first things that you hear over and over again. And, I hear them called NAICS codes and NAICS codes and whichever, but it's the North American Industry Classification System. And you can call it whatever acronym description you want to, and it still means the same thing. Yeah, it's a 6-digit coding mechanism for every single business type that we have in the United States. Specifically, a lot of times we use this on our tax return as well, the IRS. Federal agencies use NAICS codes to categorize contracts, set-asides, and also vendor searches. So if they're going in and they're looking for somebody to do administrative services, for example, they'll come in, I think it's 541620. If I'm right on that, I should get a gold star because there's a lot of them and you have to remember them. But it's then they just go search, and if you have that NAICS code chosen, then you're going to be the one of the ones that they contact. They're also used for the set asides. I mean, there's a mandate that Congress has set for our agencies to share the access to federal government contracting to small businesses specifically, and also other demographics. And they do that by setting aside particular bids by the NAICS codes. And so when you choose those and you're determined to be small business, woman-owned small business, the service disabled, veteran-owned, and so forth, 8A and others, then you're eligible to bid on those, and only other demographics that match you are also able. And so it excludes a significant part of the marketplace. Your code determines your SBA size standard. So you actually can search your NAICS code, whatever that is, and then size standard, and the SBA document will come up. We have it published on our website as well, and it tells you what is considered small and large. So a lot of us would be surprised at how big you can be and still be considered small. And specifically if you're, a lot of us are a lot of companies are sort of mom and pop operations, and you maybe $1 million, $2 million in sales at a good year, and then you realize you can get up to maybe 10 million, and you still consider small. So it's important that you understand that. You can have one primary code, only one, but you can have unlimited secondary codes. So as you go to choose them, make sure you get a good primary code that's got actually opportunities. And you can go in and do an analysis with that on the website, or you can ask us to help you with that. and we'll be glad to kind of tell you where's most of the bids coming from, and you can choose that code. Now you can always change that anytime. Just log into your SAM account system for award management, and then you're able to update your primary code or add other secondary codes. And if you see bids that are available and you have an interest in them, just remember that you have time to go in there and select so that you can then bid on that. And almost every agency gives you a number of days after they issue the bid to help you understand that. The NAICS codes themselves are updated every 5 years by the Census Bureau. If you're in technology or some of the newer, for artificial intelligence, for example, these codes run a little bit behind. So then just know you might want to choose multiple codes to cover those. Or, I think the 99999, I said that number of digits right, is the one that we all use for sort of somewhat generic. So short there, there's over 1,057 total NAICS codes. There's a lot of them. And I remember one of them, okay, 6 digits in every code, and there's 50 codes per SAM.gov profile that's allowed. Okay. Now, why your NAICS codes matter? The reason why they matter is first, it's a size standard. It's a small business set aside. That is the number one reason why we should be concerned about NAICS codes. I'll just point out it's only the federal government systems, not state and local. Local and state have their own set aside programs if there are also preferences that they provide to you. And they also typically use a different coding system that's outside NAICS. So just to make it just a little bit more complicated for you. But as we all know, it's a fragmented system, meaning that everybody gets to make their own decisions. So you're going to find a lot of different coding mechanisms not tied to the NAICS codes. Now, it's federal government mandated. They use this system. It's size standards we just talked about, set aside themselves, tied to that. If you have the wrong code, and you can miss an opportunity. So you got to really make sure you got those codes matched. Now, as you know, GovDirections, actually, while we are familiar with the NAICS codes and all the other coding systems, we tie ours to more industry. So if you provide administrative services, then you'll get consulting management, everything crosswalks do that, regardless of the code that the government actually uses. And then you can go in and actually change your code should you need to. SAM.gov, System Word Management, that's how we search in there. So you can type in that NAICS code and you can search it. Also, thank goodness these days, the keyword functionality, contributed to our to how we all work by AOL. I was talking about that just the other day, how AOL we found the keyword government bids, and we were real popular at that point in time. But keyword became the ability to actually search through any document, but NAICS code's still the primary way. Okay. GSA schedules also tied to your specific NAICS code when you get on the schedule. And that's important, a part of the process. Market research itself, if you're trying to identify using USAspending.gov or other locations, you can actually search in the SAM.gov now. They've added that data about the awards, and also for future work from FPDS and other services that are out there to really help you understand where governments are spending in the marketplace. There's typically by the NAICS code. And then, of course, our own daily alert. We actually have launched a brand new process for you that allows you to search only and receive a daily alert only by NAICS codes. It is a premium offer. So it's different than our traditional free GovDirections alert, but you can go into your account and then you can add a daily alert specifically by NAICS codes. And that'll allow those who are monitoring for set-asides to really stay on top of that. And we will announce even an additional method to make sure that you don't miss state and local set-asides in the near future beyond just the NAICS code process. So we're going to have a set-aside alert. We'll be unique to the market in terms of having not only just federal, but also state and local, sort of embracing the whole inclusive nature of government contracting for small businesses. Now, how do you look up your NAICS code? You can go and type in the word NAICS on any of the search tools, and you're going to get all kinds of, a million responses. But there's only one official, okay? And so just go straight to the official source, census.gov/NAICS. Now, that is important that you understand that. Let me go back here. Not too fast. They're the authoritative source. Okay. And so you don't have to pay for NAICS codes. You don't have to get assigned a NAICS code, things of this nature. You go in and you search, type in a keyword, and you will find the ones that match you. Then you can choose, and frankly, it'll actually give you a good summary of those that potentially can match you, so you can expand out. There's no reason that you should be too selective except for the primary. So choose a primary and then add as many of the subs that um, you potentially want to add, any additional NAICS code, including if you're in different fields. Now, you might want to, on your capability statement, be very concise, and also it should be focused. Okay, it's important that you do that. Be focused. If you're doing like some folks do, if you're doing maybe a custodial services operation as well as a leadership academy, those are two different areas, and you need two different capability statements for that. It's too confusing to the contracting officer when you put them all together. You don't really want to do that. Be flexible these days, and your tools shall allow you to do that. But you can choose as many as you like at census.gov/NAICS. And right now we're working with the 2022. And if I was given a test on this, you remember I said that it's updated every 5 years. So I think in 2027, 2028, we'll get a new one. Depends on how fast they're able to move on that approval process and the rules. Browse results, and you'll find the 6-digit code that matches your primary service. And of course, always read the full code description, because it oftentimes, for example, if you're looking at some sort of metal fabrication, it could be a different description. You can buy the product versus potentially making the product. Okay, so there's different ways, or even consulting with the product. So service, commodities, these may have different codes. Pro tip, there at the bottom, search multiple keywords. Don't just depend on one. And you'll find that to be a much more productive way to do this. Next, after you get your NAICS codes, go ahead and just go out there and search the SBA.gov. There's the link there, SBA.gov/size standards, that with that hyphen there. And then enter your NAICS code, and it'll tell you what size standard is for your organization. It also will populate eventually on your DSBS profile, the Dynamic Small Business Search profile. And if you're not familiar with that, you get familiar with your capability statement. First, let me just back up. First, make sure you register in SAM, System for Award Management. Then look at your DSBS profile. It'll be up there a couple of days after. That's a Small Business Administration overlay of your SAM information. Then go back in and it'll show you which ones you've been approved for small. Most of us approved for all of them. And if it's based on revenue or number of employees, there's two different ways that they do that. Because being classified as small then sends a signal to the contracting officers that you are eligible for a small business set aside. And that's very helpful. That's the first place they check. And believe me, they check when they go in there. But you want to make sure you mention that on your capability statement after you get that approval. Each NAICS code has its own size standard, so they're different. Check every code you use. Okay, so it's important that you do that. Now, to be honest with you, if you're just getting started and you have no revenue, you're going to be within the size standards for all of them. So don't worry about that so much, or the process. But I like for you to understand the space so that you know where to go to get answers. Always, you don't have to know all the answers. Nowadays, we don't have to know any of the answers, it seems, with AI and these tools that are there. You just ask a question. But I want you to know where to get the original information, that you can understand it totally. So understand, go to that size standard page after you go to census.gov. These are the primary agencies I've talked about already today. GSA handles SAM, System for Award Management. The Small Business Administration handles SBA size standards. And so you have two different ones that you really will be dependent on as you move into this federal space. Just remember, all of I'm talking about today only applies to the federal government level. State and local, there's 88,000 other agencies, but they do lend itself to following this information about you. It vets you, makes you legit. It helps them understand who you are, and having that available is really important. Emphasis on choosing your primary and secondary codes. Your primary NAICS should reflect your highest revenue generating service. You don't just selectively choose whenever you got revenue coming in. Okay, this is what the IRS and others will be looking toward on your reporting. Okay, so choose the highest revenue generator. If you have zero, choose where you expect to have the highest. And secondary codes for everything you can think of. Okay, And it's that question I get is, do I need them? No, you don't need extra. Can I add a bunch of them? Yes, you can add a bunch of them. Add a bunch of them. But if you know you're really only going to fit one NAICS code, don't mess up your view. But I would just share with you that, well, this process I'm sure will be automated in the future, like a lot of other things. Right now, it's human driven. So I'm a contracting officer. I get to choose which NAICS code that I'm gonna choose. And accidentally, I use that word very liberally, may choose a code that doesn't have as many competitors in it and potentially update that a little bit later. So just be aware that the NAICS code system, you want to be flexible in how you choose that. That anything that's close, choose it. Add secondary codes as many as you can. And SAM.gov profile actually allows up to 50. So be comprehensive. Okay. You don't really want more than 50. That's way too many. But you 5, 10, that's a good number, I think. Be honest in that approach. Don't just go out there and selectively choose things that you think you want to be, be honest about what you're actually going to be able to qualify for. Don't misrepresent your skill sets. It'll do more harm to you than good. Okay. Just know that going into it. But if you're a middle company and you're not quite sure just yet, you can watch it for a little bit in the process. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not, you're not going to be deemed for that. But don't be applying for things that you just simply don't qualify for. Enter your codes in SAM. That's important. Don't just go to census.gov and choose and then think about it. You have to actually go back into SAM, navigate through the process of entity registration. You can do this as many times as you want to. Every time you do it, you get extended for a whole year in the system, and you don't have to do it again, but you can go and update. And then after you update, go to assertions, and then the NAICS codes, and you should see your codes there. Okay? Your primaries first, and then all your secondary. If you're not familiar with assertions, once you log in, you click on the actual your company name, and then it'll open up a new view. And on the left-hand side, it'll show you your representations and certifications, and also your assertions that you have made. And you want to make sure those are accurate. Add your primary code first whenever you're going through and actually review it, sign it up in the system, and then all your secondary codes. But make sure that primary is there first. And once you save it and submit it, it takes effect immediately, so that you're able to bid right away. Okay. And so if you have bid and you miss something like that, usually contracting officer gives you a few days to get in there and make that change so that you do qualify for the small business status. Pro tip: after updating, search your own business by NAICS to confirm you appear. And you'll do that in the DSBS or in I'm familiar with Dynamic Small Business Search System. You can do it there, or you can go into the SAM.gov when you're logged in. Got to be logged in, not just in general. And you can search the NAICS and you should appear in that order. Now, as you might imagine, there's thousands of you in every category, tens of thousands sometimes. And so that's not maybe the most efficient. Better probably go to the DSBS site and search. It's easier to do that. There were some problems to begin with when they switched over last July. I think they switched it last July 1st for about 5 months, I think. But now it's working. It seems to be working pretty well. And you want to make sure that you're in there in the right way. I cannot stress how your dsbs.sba.gov, when you go there, if you're not there, you're not getting any business. Okay. Go there, you'll get business. Important. Go through your SAM.gov searches by NAICS codes. You can do that. When you go in, you search the same way I just told you. You would actually search for entity, but you go into the contract side and search the NAICS, type in the NAICS code. It'll show you which one's matching. You can also do an advanced search on the left-hand side as you drop into it. And sometimes I find that a little bit more helpful. You also will oftentimes see active and inactive, and you really want to sort out just the active contracts in SAM. I would just, share with you. It's a system you got to get used to, not necessarily the easiest. One reason why we have a business solution, GovDirections, is a little simpler to actually search. You can just go click on your member homepage, and right there you have a box that says NAICS code search, and you type it, and then you can type in NAICS. You see all the bids, and then you also see which ones are that are available right now, and then also will see the ones that are set aside. Always review what's actively being bid in your category. It's important right after you choose it, okay? And understand that. And then look at history, okay? And understand, you might want to do a 365 approach, take the whole year and say, when are my bids actually coming out? But some of them are different, okay, in different times and different amount. periods. Okay, so you want to do that. And also, I would probably take a 5-year view. Most contracts don't go over 5 years, or a few, but not most of them don't. And so they're year to year, and then you can see really where your market's at if you do a 5-year tracking. Now we do that at GovDirections. We have something called upcoming, which is basically an analysis of when contracts are going to be reissued, and you want to keep that pipeline full. And you're able to do that through your capture folder and monitor those. It's very important that you do that, because when you get to the table, you only have a few days left if when the bid's actually issued. And so knowing when those bids are coming out soon, you can practice more traditional business development. But once that RFP is issued and is assigned a due date, then you really have got to play by the rules. It's very important. And so you don't want to be non-responsive. But before then, you can get out there and practice more traditional business development. It's not rare. I mean, it's somewhat rare that the contracting officers change. So when you see one in the last year or two, you actually can start potentially letting them know who you are by your capability statement. Save your filtered search and set up a daily alert there in that system. But GovDirections, I'll just tell you, our GovDirections alert is far superior, just hands down. And make sure you go in and pull that. Common mistakes: use only one NAICS code. If you only use one, you're missing out. Most businesses qualify for 5 or more, so make sure you expand a little bit. Exceptions, of course, that rule. Picking a code that sounds right but misses your actual SBA size standard, that's another one. So review both. Not updating your codes as your business adds new service line. That's a common mistake. You need to update, but you only have to update once. Don't just use the 4-digit code or 5-digit code. Always use the full 6-digit. That's important. And when you search, you may want to be searching with just 4, but always use the 6 digits when you add that in the system. Ignoring NAICS codes when setting up bid alerts themselves. You need to make sure, otherwise you'll miss most of your matching bids. Guessing at size standards, don't guess. Always be sure. I'm going to leave you today as we get to near the end of this presentation. You have a plan. Okay, first, if you haven't got your NAICS codes assigned, or if you're thinking about expanding them, everybody should be. Search census.gov/NAICS first today. Just go there after you finish the session. Take a look at that system. It's easy, it's friendly, it's a great tool. Verify your size standard on SBA.gov. Just go ahead and just go understand that. It's a long, typically you can download the PDF and look at it. It's easier to use sometimes, and you can see how they're all different. And sometimes you can look and see which one's more favorable to you. Add every applicable code you can think of to your SAM.com Gov profile. Try to do 10 today. Okay. Set up your SAM.gov bid alerts. You'll have some challenges with this one. Or go to GovDirections.com and see how simple we make it. And then, of course, and make sure you have both those alerts coming to you routinely. And don't forget DIBS. DIBS is a good site. A lot of the DIBS contracts, Defense Internet Bulletin Board, I think, DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, those are transactions that are less than 25,000 oftentimes, and they don't appear on your SAM. And those are good business options. So make sure you got it at both sites. Update your codes anytime your business adds a new service. Don't forget about that. First thing you do. A lot of us are entrepreneurs, so we're doing this frequently. So make sure you go in there and update. So there we are today. I want to thank you for joining us. And for those who come a little later, I'm going to watch this live on GovDirections, or I guess it's not live there, but it's on our YouTube live channel. Make sure you first, make sure you're signed up at GovDirections. We provide good services, but also subscribe on that YouTube channel. It helps us out. It allows us to present our information to a lot more who can benefit from it. I just thank you for coming. We have spoke to you first about that daily alert. We're in all 50 states, US, also all the provinces of Canada, and as of July 1st, all the states in Mexico. You have a free tier. We have no paywall on any federal bid opportunities. Our new Agora marketplace, Agora by GovDirections, has been announced this past week, and you also will have free options there that is available to you. But as always, our aggregation service is a paid service, and was where we add our value at. We've been doing that since 1998. In fact, it started July 1st, 1998, and we just entered our 28th year with over 1 billion bid alerts delivered. We have delivered a lot of opportunity
to our class. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.